The headquarters of Sterling Global Tower stood above downtown Chicago like a monument to power, 60 floors of glass, thousands of employees, billions of dollars flowing through its divisions every year. Financial news channels called it one of the most influential companies in America. Inside those walls, careers were made, fortunes were built, and sometimes, lives were destroyed. At exactly 6:15 a.m., long before executives arrived, a maintenance worker stepped through the employee entrance carrying a mop bucket. Nobody looked at him twice. Nobody offered a greeting. Nobody cared to them. He was just another cleaner, another invisible worker, another face that didn't matter. The man pushed his cart toward the elevators, simple gray uniform, work gloves, old sneakers, employee badge hanging from his neck. Nothing about him attracted attention, which was exactly what he wanted. His name was Daniel Sterling, 43 years old, single father, widower, and unknown to everyone inside the building. The sole heir to Sterling Global's multi-billion-dollar empire, including the CEO, including the board, including almost every employee. Because Daniel was undercover, and nobody knew, not yet 5 years earlier, Daniel's life had shattered. His wife Emily died during a sudden illness. 1 week they were planning Noah's 10th birthday. The next, he was standing beside a hospital bed saying goodbye. The pain nearly destroyed him. For months he disappeared from public life, avoided interviews, avoided company events, avoided the spotlight. His mother, Eleanor Sterling, the billionaire founder of Sterling Global, begged him to return, but Daniel refused. He wasn't interested in wealth or titles or power. The only thing that mattered was raising his son. Noah became his entire world, every school event, every soccer game, every bedtime story. Daniel never missed one. Not one. Meanwhile, Sterling Global kept growing, bigger, richer, more powerful, and eventually, something changed. Complaints started arriving, anonymous letters, employee reports, whistleblower emails, stories about bullying managers, abused workers, executives treating staff like disposable objects. The reports all pointed toward one person, CEO Richard Kane, the man Eleanor had personally promoted 3 years earlier. At first she dismissed the rumors, then more arrived. Then more, then hundreds. Finally Eleanor called Daniel. "Something is wrong inside my company." Daniel listened. "What do you want me to do?" Her answer surprised him. "Find the truth." And that's exactly why he was here, not as an executive, not as an heir, not as a billionaire, as a cleaner, invisible, ignored, free to see what nobody else saw. For 3 weeks Daniel worked every floor, cleaning offices, emptying trash bins, mopping hallways, wiping conference tables, and what he discovered shocked him. Employees were terrified, not motivated, terrified. Managers screamed at workers. Assistants cried in restrooms. Staff worked unpaid overtime. Good employees quit every week. Nobody spoke openly, because everyone feared Richard Kane. The CEO ruled through intimidation. And fear. Daniel documented everything, every complaint, every witness, every violation, patiently, quietly, waiting, watching, learning. Then came Tuesday morning, the day everything changed. Floor 58, executive headquarters. Daniel pushed his cleaning cart through the hallway. A group of executives stood outside a conference room. Among them was Richard Kane, tall, expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Daniel lowered his head and continued working. Richard barely glanced at him, then suddenly stopped. His eyes narrowed. "Hey." Daniel looked up. "Yes, sir." Richard pointed toward a small water stain near the conference room. "You missed a spot." Daniel glanced down. "I'll clean it immediately." Richard smirked. Several executives watched, enjoying the moment, enjoying the power imbalance. "You cleaners are all the same." Daniel remained calm. "What do you mean?" Richard laughed, slow. Several executives chuckled. "Careless." More laughter. Daniel said nothing. Richard stepped closer. And completely replaceable. Silence. The hallway became uncomfortable. A few employees looked away, embarrassed. Daniel simply nodded. "Take care of it." Richard wasn't finished. Bullies rarely are. He pointed toward Daniel's cart. "Actually, forget the stain." Daniel waited. "I don't think you're qualified for this job." Several executives laughed again. Daniel looked directly at him for the first time, and something about that look bothered Richard, because it wasn't fearful, it wasn't nervous, it wasn't submissive, it was calm, too calm. Richard crossed his arms. "What?" Daniel asked quietly. "Are you firing me?" The executives laughed harder. They assumed he was joking. Richard smiled, a cruel smile. You know what? He reached toward Daniel's badge, ripped it from his uniform, and dropped it into the trash. Yes, silence, the laughter stopped, because suddenly it felt real. Richard pointed toward the elevator. Done. Daniel stared at the badge lying in the garbage, the symbol of an employee, a worker, a man Richard believed had no value, no voice, no importance. Then Daniel looked back up. You sure? Richard laughed. Absolutely. The same answer powerful people often give right before disaster. Daniel slowly nodded. Okay. Just one word, okay, nothing else. No argument, no anger, no threats, and somehow that made everyone uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because people with nothing to lose usually fight. But Daniel didn't. He simply smiled, a small smile, the kind that appears when someone already knows the ending. Richard pointed again. Out. Daniel picked up his cleaning cart, turned around, and walked away without another word. By noon, the entire company had heard the story. The CEO fired a cleaner. Most employees felt sorry for him. Some were angry, others weren't surprised, because Richard Kane had become famous for humiliating people. But nobody knew the truth, not yet. At exactly 3:00 p.m. an emergency board meeting was called. Every executive received a mandatory attendance notice. Floor 60 main boardroom. Immediate appearance required. No explanation provided. Richard wasn't worried. In fact, he felt confident. He assumed another quarterly review was coming. Another opportunity to showcase profits. Another chance to impress Heir Sterling, the billionaire founder, the woman who still owned most of the company, the woman few employees ever met. At 3:15 p.m. the boardroom doors opened. Directors entered, vice presidents entered, legal advisors entered, Richard entered. Then the room became silent, because Heir Sterling herself walked in, and beside her was someone nobody expected. Someone Richard recognized instantly. The cleaner. The man he fired only hours ago, still wearing the same gray uniform, still calm, still silent. Richard frowned, confused, very confused. Heir walked to the head of the table, then spoke 6 words that instantly changed everything. Meet my son, Daniel Sterling. Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved, nobody breathed, nobody blinked. Richard stared, his face turning pale, because suddenly every piece of the puzzle snapped into place. The cleaner. The calmness, the confidence, the strange smile, the lack of fear, it all made sense now. The man he publicly humiliated, the man he fired, the man he treated like garbage, was the future owner of the entire company. And as Daniel slowly took a seat beside his billionaire mother, Richard Kane realized something terrifying. Getting fired wasn't going to be Daniel's problem. It was about to become his.